Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and I'm excited to say this might be one of the last videos of the K-swap before it runs. That being said, we have a bunch of stuff to install in the car today. I've got the wiring harness, ECU, sub harness for the underdash conversion, and a couple other trinkets that will make this car 100% turnkey ready. So a couple videos ago, you guys saw that we wrapped up the accessory part of things with the hybrid racing power steering kit, hybrid racing AC kit, and a whole bunch of other little trinkets under the hood. As for the underdash section, you guys also saw we did the conversion pedals, going from the automatic to the 5-speed pedals, as well as doing the shifter install on the car. So this car is pretty much ready to crank over as long as it has wiring that you can see we have right over there. For the wiring harness, we had originally selected to go with an OEM used harness, but unfortunately it just didn't meet up to the standard that we wanted, and we ended up opting out for a JackSpania engine harness with an integrated power wire to go from the alternator to the fuse box in the OEM location, and it also gives a nice aesthetic look inside of the engine bay. For electronics, we are also using the Honda K Pro V4, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that that's what it is. It's the newest one that they produced with the Bluetooth, and I think that they've actually stopped producing these, so it's getting kind of hard to find them. We've actually scooped this up about a year ago, and we still have it ready to go. And for the underdash conversion harness, we have the hybrid racing, fully plug and play with the additional pins to add other stuff. So all of this stuff right here should make this section of the build extremely quick and extremely simple, with a couple instructional papers included with each part, so we have a clear path of what to do on the installation, as well as everything labeled. So for example, on the engine harness, we have individual labeling for every single component, from the injectors to coils to intake air temps, everything labeled out. Then for the hybrid racing, we have the connectors nice and crisp. Everything looks super nice quality on this unit, which I'm really happy with. And the Honda easy plug and play unit onto the K-swap car. We're gonna go ahead and get started on this process right here. It's very self-explanatory when you install a harness like this. You basically lay it along the engine with a path that's similar to OEM. In this case, we're going to have the main loom go through the firewall hole that we had already made right here. It's gonna go laid over the engine bay, following this path of the coils, and then to the main sensor and connector sections up here. So it's basically, like I said, gonna go in this section, that pathway, and it should be a pretty straightforward install. I'm gonna go ahead and get my wife out here because she's gonna give me a hand. As you guys know, we've been teaching her how to work on the car, getting her ready for this to be a nice little daily fun car for her and myself as well when I steal it. But we're gonna go ahead and start wrenching on this. I'll just put a time lapse. Don't wanna bore you with an hour plus of us putting the harness on and sub harness, but I'll pick up once we get under the dash to show you what goes next. All right, so that went on really smoothly. There's still a couple decisions that I have to make on how we're gonna lay out the wiring, but pretty much this is all set with the main components plugged in. There are a couple things that aren't plugged, like intake air temp. I don't have an intake yet for this. Once we do, then we'll put a sensor, a bung into it. Then there's something else like the starter. I just have to run that real quick, but that's simple. There's 3 auxiliary wires right here that these go directly through the loom into the ECU section. So if you're adding something extra like a nitrous solenoid, or you want to have additional sensor information, you can use these wires to then have it go right to the ECU on the inside without having to run any additional wires. So that makes it really convenient. Everything else is pretty much plugged in, tucked under the OEM cover right there. And then I'll show you the section where this wiring finishes. So there goes right here, that's the power wire that loops out from the harness. If you run the fuse box under the dash, like a lot of people do on K-Series when they want to do like the tuck look, then you would just have this go inside of the car, and you have plenty of extra wiring if you want to do it in different ways. So you can see that connects right there, and that's just the charge harness that goes through the loom and then to the alternator. And we're gonna put the slack inside of the car, and on the inside we'll just loom it up and zip tie it to length. And we have this whole loom that goes through this section right there, and I have this little makeshift grommet from a cut hose that'll just go around and it'll clean it all up. For people going from B series to K series, you have these extra plugs that the harness people and the K series people say just to leave underneath the battery tray. And this I'm gonna go ahead and start putting on in this section. I had it right the first way. But yeah, anyways, I gotta move the harness again and that charge wire to be out of the way and be able to bolt this battery tray back in there. And I think that'll be the last time we bolt it once I put this grommet in. And we can actually start putting the wiring for the battery, which will be the red positive, and then the negative would be the black cable from Hybrid Racing. I have their full grounds kit on this car, and it actually feels really nice to be able to have a brand new unit instead of an old corroded one. We have a ground there, ground on the other side, and the engine ground we have under here. And all those grounds together are going to work so we have nice clean signal throughout the engine and a good completion of the electrical system. And yeah, I can go ahead and start mounting that battery tray right there. All right, now that we have the wiring harness ran through, we started attaching some of the conversion harness just to kind of lay things out. This connector from the conversion harness is going to go onto this corner slot right there. And then you have the other two connectors. These two white connectors, those are going to go on the left side of the ECU. Then you have a couple aspects of this wiring conversion harness that we're going to be touching on. So this is basically your wideband relay. This is going to be the heater for the wideband. Then you have the OBD2 connector. If you have any codes or if you want to flash or check the emission stuff, you can use that plug-in right there, standard OBD2. Then you have your two O2 sensors. You're going to have this one right here as the secondary. That's going to be if you have emission stuff related to the car. And then you have the wideband one, which is the one that goes right into the header. And like I said, this is the wideband heater that goes associated to that. This section right here, you have this big crate plug with the additional wires loomed up on it. This is going to go plugged into the left side under dash. This is what's going to communicate the car with what's going on with the additional K-Series stuff. And then you have the connector, I already mentioned this one that goes straight to the ECU. So there's a couple extra wires, we'll touch on that. But for now, we're just going to go ahead and mock it up. I got to cut this little zip tie right there and free up all this wiring. This is going to be loosely laid out. I know I have kind of a mess right now, but we're just going to do like a mock-up, and then we're going to find the exact spot of where the ECU is going to sit, probably on this OEM kick panel, and then we're going to make it nice once the car runs. All right, so I'm coming home from work right now. Last night I stayed up until like 3-something a.m. Buttoning up things for the car. The last thing that I can remember that I need is a serpentine belt, because I completely forgot to get that. I'm on my way to get that right now. And to upload a base map to Honda K-Pro to actually get it onto the ECU. There's a couple ways that you can do it. You can have somebody make a base map for you. You can make one yourself. It's very complicated if you're starting from scratch. But Honda does have in their base map archive, or whatever you want to call it, a couple different base maps that are for popular setups. So for example, they have a K series for K24, for example. They have a K24 with 45-degree VTC header intake, K24 no VTC header intake, K20, etc., etc. The one that I downloaded was a K24 stock from top to bottom. Even though we have intake, exhaust, well, big tube header and whatnot, and aftermarket fuel system, I downloaded that, and then I had to change a couple things. So they have basically like a rough throw a dart at a board type calibration for dead times on 1000cc injectors. So I have similar to what their loaded calibration gives you. So you select in the drop down, and it gives you like a rough estimation of what the car should be running like. So we're gonna go ahead and get that stuff on there, as well as disabling a few things like the knock sensor. We don't have the right knock sensor yet. The ELD, the electrical load something with the battery, and then a couple other little trinkets here and there, like the secondary L2 sensor, etc., etc. I'm gonna go to the store right now, pick that up. As for the wiring for underdash, I'll show you guys a quick glance of it in a little bit, but it honestly looks really, really bad. I took apart the center console, as well as moved some stuff on the inside. The car's completely apart right now. I don't want to do an in-depth how-to on the underdash conversion harness, because Hybrid Racing already made such a good write-up online for each different chassis and the different years and the different connectors and all the different codes. And so I'll link that in the description below. You guys can check that out. And I suggest following that to the T, because it made installation super, super easy. Most of it was plug and play, and then you had like 4 or 5 wires that you then just tapped in or crimped in or whatever. So yeah, I'm going to the store right now. Hopefully they have a belt that works out for me. My buddy Max told me just to get a stock RSX Type S belt, because I'm running K24 with Type S accessories. I hope it's the right length, and if not, then we'll just go from there. So we have a bunch of stuff tidied up, and honestly, I think this is actually ready to start, to be honest with you. I have like pretty much everything. The serpentine belt is on. We loaded the base map onto K-Pro and did a few adjustments on there with sensors that we have. I actually upgraded to a Skunk 2 throttle body versus the Chinesium billet one that we had. It has a smoother operation on the spring right there, and it has couple other things like the mounting bracket is a little more rigid, and there's a few things that we decided to use the better quality of that product on there. Everything wiring wise is hooked up, and we've done a few tests with the K-Pro, and so far everything looks like it has perfect communication. The tall tell sign will be once we actually start it. Fuel pressure regulator is hooked up, vacuum source now. There's a whole bunch of little things that we did, like run the AC line, electronic stuff. So this right here, the red wire is the OEM sensor, excuse me, the OEM communication to the stock AC compressor, and then that's routed now to the aftermarket one in the K series, and that just has a connector that I have down there to the K series AC compressor. As for the inside harness, like I said, I'm gonna link down below the whole guide by Hybrid Racing because it's really in depth. But what we did, we basically routed everything and tucked it all up here. You can see there's a couple wires that I still need to clean up a little bit. And right behind here, it's kind of a jungle. I did my best to try to zip tie the stuff that we don't need, but it is all behind this kick panel. And once we have everything all said and done, then I'll clean that up just a hair more. But honestly, everything looks pretty good on this end. The interior looks absolutely immaculate. Obviously, I have some stuff right here, but for the stock seats, the shifter looks like it just belongs there. It looks so good with the stock interior. I can't wait to get a boot and give this that OEM trim look, and then have that hybrid collar onto the shift knob as well. And there's so many little trinkets on this car that make it look like such a sleeper. It's still factory suspension, factory hubcaps on the stock Steelies. Everything about this looks stock. But it is nighttime, and this is pretty much wrapped up for the night. Tomorrow, we're hoping to do the first start and first drive. Surprise my wife with the car, because obviously this is my wife's four-door Integra that I'm gonna be stealing a lot. But we're really excited to see what she thinks about it. Thank you guys for watching. I know the uploads have been kind of sporadic, but we're back onto a program, especially with this car. The race car is taking a little bit of a break, and we're gonna focus 100% onto the K-Swap Integra. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if you think it'll start tomorrow in the comment section down below, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye. Holy crap.